Hey, hello folks. I have a very interesting topic today for discussion. And the topic is gonna be a game changer for our country's youth. Why do I really say that having spiritual well-being can be a game changer? Why is it that having and developing spiritual well-being from an early age is an extremely important trait and is going to be a lot more valued, especially in the workplace? Let me tell you, the world is slowly and gradually moving from IQ to EQ and from EQ to SQ. Now, IQ, as we all understand, is intelligent quotient. From intelligence, it has gone to emotional quotient, and from emotional, it is slowly and steadily heading towards spiritual quotient. What exactly is spirituality? What comes to your mind when you think about spiritual well-being? Well, to start with, let me tell you, I'm going to talk about 4 well-being aspects which, if put together, will comprise to be holistic well-being for any individual. Let me uncover today the first of the 4 that are going to unfold in the weeks ahead. What comes to mind when you think about the word spirituality? Well, does it mean any of the following? Does it really mean that it's just for the old people? Or is it equally relevant for the young as well as probably kids as well? Is having and developing spiritual orientation needed only when one is unhappy or sad or in depression? Or do you really need it just to understand yourself much better, just to be aware, just to be in the present rather than getting your mind, moving between the past and the future all the time? Does this mean that it can only help in terms of removing any sort of anger or depression that probably people may go through in different kind of situations? Or does it really mean that having and developing this can really be instrumental for our youth, for probably young working professionals to be calm, to be resilient even in the toughest of situations? What could be a better time than the current situation when the entire world is reeling under a lot of negative pressure, when you need the aspect of spiritual well-being all the more? So what's really the answer to this? The answer really is the point that I just said, that there won't be a better time than the current time when spiritual well-being is really important. And why do I really say what I say? The primary reason I say that is because energy is one of the biggest game changer that one gains when one gets deeply associated and connected with spirituality in whatever ways possible. When one gets associated with their own spiritual well-being, when one gets awakened with their own inner self, what they really develop and what they really garner for themselves is a lot of energy. And where does that energy typically comes from? What happens to that energy? Our entire spiritual well-being is connected to the kind of energy that we generate from within. And how do we really generate that energy is connected completely to the kind of mindset and positive flow of thoughts that we maintain. I'm going to talk about that very soon, but let me tell you, all of this energy, be it a combination of positive or negative, that flows into us, and that positive or negative flow actually defines what's the kind of mindset that we are going to carry all the time. And that mindset helps us to take actions which define our future, actions which decide how are we going to respond to different situations. So that's really the answer with respect to this. How do we really discover this? It gets discovered when we go ourselves much deeper, when we go within ourselves. And I have a very interesting analogy to talk about. The analogy really is to discover our own internal GPS, to discover our own inner GPS. What do I really mean by inner GPS? Like the way when we use electronic gadgets, like maybe a car or maybe a phone, we have navigational path very well defined. When we use a phone, we know that there are different kind of features. We go from screen 1 to screen 2 to screen 3. We might use Google GPS. Similarly, when we are using a car, we use navigation, and that navigation shows us the path around. However, if you have to look at an analogy of a child, what happens? Who designs the inner GPS of a child? Well, the innocent wisdom that a child is born with, that is so strong that it is much beyond the rules of yes and no from the society for that particular child. And that child is guided not by anything else but by his or her own inner GPS. The child cries when the child is hungry. Now, if for a moment you think about any child in your own family, or you think about yourself, speak to your parents, you'll understand how all of us have really been. I was like that, and so do I see as my children to be like that. So whenever they have a demand, they use their own innocent wisdom. They see people as equals. For them, it's not like different people coming from different levels, hierarchies, all of that doesn't matter to them. So that's where that inner GPS is really working beautifully for a young child. And if we can understand this, just imagine the kind of work that we can typically do. Taking that analogy further, whatever the child learns, the child learns from his or her first school, and that first school is their own parents. That first school is the own home. So a child always mirror their parents. So if we always we want to inculcate spirituality right from the early childhood or even at the level of youth, the learning and the beginning has to happen from the parents themselves. So as responsible citizens, as the youth of the country, as someone who is working either as an entrepreneur or as a working professional, it's extremely important that we start to use our own inner GPS and we start to calm down ourselves in so many different ways so that we can start winning in different situations. And what will really happen if we start winning in different situations? Our response to those winning situations will define with what level of betterment can we respond in the future. So how do we really discover all this? We can discover all this through so many different routes. So you see, when we spend time in the nature, what is it that we are doing? We are connecting our deeper self with the nature, and that connection comes very, very naturally. All that we need to do is develop that inclination, or even if that inclination is already there, connect and spend time with nature. We can do that by meditation. Meditation has that inherent power to calm you down in so many different ways, to bring lot of energy that you can garner into yourself just by calming down your own mind. And just imagine if the youth of the country, as a youth, if you start spending a little bit of time for your own self, let me tell you, even if you have solved one problem in the morning, even if you are going to receive 10 more problems, your ability to solve those problems increases, many fold. So that's really the power of doing meditation. When you do yoga, not only are you going to keep yourself physically fit, mentally fit, but you also connect yourself and develop your spiritual well-being in so many different ways. When you do pranayam, when you are in the mode of silence, which is when you're just going deep within, when you're just spending time with your own self, what is it that you're doing? You are trying to, calm down and put all your thoughts together at one place. The natural flow of thoughts always keeps happening all the time. So how do you really manage that inner chatter that keeps happening here all the time? And then finally, another important thing that I have really, embraced in my own life is engaging in social service. Engagement in social service is one such satisfaction that you will always garner when you do things for other people without having any vested interest. When you do things beyond your own self, that's one of the biggest advantages that you will gain, and that's really the joy and the magical reward that you can get. And what really are the benefits of doing all this when we connect with our deeper self? The benefits are again varied. It really makes you stronger from within. And what happens as a result of this? What really happens as a result of this is you develop a lot more resilience. And when you develop resilience, what really happens is it makes you stronger even in difficult situations. You learn compassion. You start to relate to other people a lot more calmness, with a lot more love, with a lot more affection. You start seeing people at different levels as human beings, beyond their accolades, beyond their degrees and all of that stuff. You are at peace and you develop calmness, and as a result, what happens? You become a lot more happier. One of the biggest factor is you start to trust more people. Just like the way a typical child will always trust other people, you also start doing that. You start living in a world of abundance. You feel that whatever you want is already available with you, and more than anything else, you calm down your mind. So my dear friends, I hope you would have found value in whatever I've shared with you in the form of spiritual well-being. Embrace this entire concept into your life and see what are the kind of magical rewards that you can garner from this. I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much. Cheers and bye-bye.